A brand new poll suggests Canadians are overwhelmingly in favour of Prime Minister Mark Carney's decision to call off trade negotiations late Friday night. New numbers from the Angus Reid Institute suggest 3/4 of Canadians think the Prime Minister made the right choice to walk away from the negotiating table. For more on this, I'm joined now by the president of the Angus Reid Institute and longtime friend of the show, of course, Shachi Kurl. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Love to have you in person. That's a nice treat for us. And you guys work fast. You already have some data on how Canadians feel about this decision to walk away from the negotiating table. Tell me what you've heard so far.
Yeah, what were you doing on Saturday night?
I was here, actually.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a weekend for all of us. We really wanted to get the first take, that initial reaction. And the initial reaction really demonstrates to me that elbows up mentality that we've been seeing for the better part of 18 months wasn't just theoretical, that Canadians are still very much in that mode when you've got 3/4, 76% of Canadians saying it was the right decision to walk away. When 69%, almost 7 in 10 Canadians tell us that Prime Minister Carney showed strength by making the decision that he did. It's a pretty strong endorsement, and it does show, and I think I use the word resolve in that headline, it shows that Canadians have some mettle and some resolve around this that didn't just disintegrate when the stuff hit the fan.
Yeah, so how are Canadians, you mentioned this, but how are they assessing the Prime Minister personally? Because he's been out front on this, he's been the main messenger. Right. If we're to believe his timeline of events, it was his call to walk away from the negotiating table. How are Canadians feeling about the Prime Minister's handling of this file?
Well, it certainly shows that he's operating from a place of strength and with some mandate at the moment in terms of the way Canadians are viewing it. So we've watched his trend line, both on approval and on performance on this particular issue, go up and down and up and down. It was down about a year ago, and then, not a lot was going on, and then it started to trend back up. But again, I would say that 70% saying that, yes, this was a show of strength, that he's handled the crisis well. Those are pretty strong endorsements.
The Prime Minister, of course, has promised to hit back at the Americans and levy dollar-for-dollar tariffs on U.S. goods that are coming into this country. It's a policy choice, obviously, designed to punish the Americans, but there could be some effects on our country as well, right? Things could be more expensive here in Canada as a result. How do people feel about the prospect of counter tariffs on American goods? Sure,
and that's a whole other narrative. So you've got the surface level feelings, and then you've got the undercurrents. And the undercurrents are one of apprehension, unease, sort of a creeping dread. The fact that 2 in 5 Canadians are telling us that they're worried about the loss of their own job, and about just over 10% say that they're really worried about that. Most naturally, those are folks in the most affected sectors. So that tells us things are, this isn't just like, yeah, sure, it's fine, stick it to them. We know that this is going to hurt. From a consumer perspective, 90% of Canadians saying that they expect this to hit their wallets in terms of the costs of goods and services. So there is a pain point, a pretty strong pain point that Canadians are bracing for and expecting.
Do you notice a partisan divide in any of these data points? I mean, I'm sure Liberal voters in particular are lining up behind the Prime Minister, but how do Conservatives, NDP, Bloc voters feel about the decision to walk away, the decision not to take a deal like the one the Americans were offering? Are you noticing some sort of split in these numbers?
Well, I think the political numbers are really important within the context of the regional numbers. So let's unpack both. So on the political level, yes, this is a power and politics show. We're going to talk domestic politics. You're absolutely right. Nearly all Liberal voters are like, yes, this was the right choice. But so do NDP voters say that. A significant, I think a majority of Bloc voters also saying that. What's really interesting about the Conservative vote is they're evenly divided. So just over 40% say it was the right decision, but just over 40% say it was the wrong decision. But when you earn a split with Conservative voters, and you're not the same party, it's not that government has earned a win. If half of opposition voters are lining up behind you. So that creates all kinds of challenges for the opposition leader, who is really kind of, any opposition leader in this situation would be struggling to find a coherent and grabby line of attack or of criticism on this. But it's especially challenging for Pierre Poilievre, because no matter what he says, he's going to lose half his base on this based on where they are today. The regional story is also so important, JP, because it's rare that we see Canadians coast to coast to coast saying that they are behind the Prime Minister, behind the government's decision, behind negotiators' decision to walk away. You have like low points of about 60% in Alberta. It's a little bit lower in Saskatchewan, maybe not surprisingly, given that those are the conservative heartlands. But again, majorities everywhere. It also really makes it super important and interesting as to how the premiers are going to continue to react and respond. Because when big segments of their own populations are saying, no, this was the right decision, they don't have a lot of room to go rogue off of the Team Canada approach. And we're going to have more data on that, I think, tomorrow.
Have you ever seen such support for something like this? Like, I mean, you're counting like kind of strong support across party lines, across provinces, every region of the country kind of lining up behind the Prime Minister's decision here. Can you remember an issue where there has been that much support for one single decision like this?
Yeah, people have asked me that, and it's an anomaly. It's same, and it's different. So the same is the crisis aspect of this. In times of crisis, whether it's 9/11, whether it's COVID was almost 7 years ago. What is that even? Or whether it's this. In times of crisis, we do see people pull together, and we see them pull behind the leadership of the day, whether it's premiers, municipal leaders, or the Prime Minister or the government of the day. But what also happens is that the longer a crisis goes on and becomes normalized, you start to see people pulling apart, and those regular divisions come through. What is an anomaly with this is the level of consistency, and I'll come back to where I started, the level of consistency that Canadians have had around saying we want to take a hard line, a hard approach on this. Again, it's not theoretical, it's not just emotional. This is where they are.
Yeah. Okay, let's leave it there. Shachi Kurl, president of the Angus Reid Institute. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, JP.